Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to Ready to Amplify, an interview series designed to inspire and take you behind the scenes of women entrepreneurs who are stepping into a bigger spotlight, amplifying, and the systems and strategies that they put into place to help support them on their journey, and some insights, some stories. And if you want to ask questions, pop in there. Let us know what you're thinking while we're recording. And if you're watching on replay, let us know as well. We're going to pop back in. Just put a hashtag replay in your comments as well so we can track you better. So I have today with me on my side, on my left or right, I don't know, my right? I don't know. It's always backwards on Facebook Live. Tina Forsyth. Tina, I'm so excited to have you here. I was thinking for our interview, welcome, first of all, welcome. And, you know, I was saying, is Tina one of my girl crushes, like in the business world? My business crush, I would say. Like, I just, I'm a big admirer of yours as far as, you know, your systems and beliefs around leadership, around organizing your team. And I think that those of you who are watching, if you're a business coach, speaker, author, expert of some sort, you'll be really excited to hear that Tina has launched her own certification course. This was years ago. It's called the Certified OBM Training, but she also is the founder of the International Online Business Managers, International Association of Online Business Managers, has published 2 books. It's a bit of a mouthful the Wednesday afternoon. But certifying other entrepreneurs in the online business management systems and strategies, but also has written 2 books with a 3rd on the way. So I just can't wait for us to get talking about this, but welcome again.
Thank you.
Yay. And I say that there's another book, we were just talking about it coming down the pipe, which is called Higher Up. Yes. And the process of launching and birthing a book, it's something, I think it's unique. I was sharing earlier in the week that of all the people that want to write a book, 3% actually do. And then the 1% of that 3% actually publish, print, and promote it. So it's a process, right? And it must feel great to have 2 under your belt, or does it always feel kind of new and scary when you're going back into it?
I equate writing a book with like birthing a baby. I mean, there's sort of like all these stages. I think that happened even long before the actual writing or publishing of the book too. I mean, writing is one of my favorite things to do. So I knew I would be writing another book. It was only recently that I discovered what that book would be, because I thought it was going to be something totally different.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it is funny. It is funny, but it's an interesting journey for sure to be writing a book. And I think it's quite different. I mean, I wrote my first book 10 years ago. Writing a book nowadays, there's things that are similar, but there's also things that are different, I think, about writing a book, especially in the way that we can be connected through the writing process.
Oh my goodness, absolutely, right? And just connecting with business coaches or book writing coaches, publishers, self-printing versus.
And even some of the like looking at ways to be connected with my community through the writing process of like, I'm looking at this as a book that I'm the one writing it, but it's going to be written through a lot of conversations and, you know, communications and putting things out there and connecting with people around some of the topics. I mean, I'm talking about hiring, which is can be a somewhat loaded topic and or a challenging topic for people. But yeah, I'm excited about getting. Wait, I think you had asked me that too before we hopped on here. Like, when is it coming out? I'm like, when I write it. You know, I got to get writing. I'm not just where it's all in my head. Now I got to get it.
It percolates. And I think you work with a lot of business owners too that have a lot of ideas in their head, and you help them kind of get them into systems. And is that something that always came naturally for you when you started out, or was that something like, tell me a little bit about that evolution? Like what do you love most about these, like getting ideas out of the head and systems of execution? And
I love simplicity is probably the number one thing. Simplicity and freedom. I'm naturally a very organized person, I guess you could say. Like for those who've done Strengths Finder and such, I've got like a ranger. I've got things in there where I like to see the way things come together. And so a lot of the work I'll do with clients, whether it's a coaching client, someone who's got lots of ideas for their own business and they're trying to put those pieces together, or whether it's someone who's in our certified OBM community, supporting them to support their clients in getting systems and getting things organized and putting things together. If things are too complicated, they don't get done. They don't get done. So the heart of, at the end of the day, I just like to see great visions come to life. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of things that can get in the way of that.
Tell me more. And do you apply this to your system? Like when you're dealing with the fears, like say launching this book, or even, taking it back to launching your own certification program, like that's a huge, courageous, I think that's huge, right? Like, so tell me about navigating those fears too.
Oh, so I launched the OBM certification program back in 2009. It was quite funny because I'd written my book. So we just came out with the 10th anniversary of our.
Oh, congratulations.
Yay. I wrote this book in 2008. And, it took me a long time to write this book because of the fear that you're talking about. So I had been working as an online business manager. I had, you may know Andrea Leigh. She's a good friend of mine. We were working together at that time. I was her OBM at the time. And she's like, you need to write this book. You need to do this. You need to put this out there. And it was like, I don't know. I was just afraid of doing it. Like, it was just, who am I to do this? What does this mean to like take a stand for something, to take a stand for an industry that really didn't even exist at that time? And honestly, I thought when I wrote the book, I thought that would be it. Like, I'm like, okay, I'm going to write this book. People can read it. They can go be an OBM and we're good. That was kind of what I had in my head. But no, little did I know. That was just the beginning of it, because it was shortly after that we started the association, or OBM Association, and the certification and training program that continues to run to this point. We've got 3 certified OBM trainers now. We've got all kinds of cool things expanding there as well. But I would say probably the biggest fear was really that who do I think I am piece of it.
Yeah.
And I think there's a part of that, even like I've done various things. I like to joke that I get like a 3-year itch in my business. So when you talk about the vision, being a visionary, having a lot of ideas, definitely I can fit in that category. And about every 3 years in my business, I'm kind of like, okay, what else can I get into? What else can I get into now? It's almost like every time that comes up, though, there's always something that comes with it, like another fear or another block, or not even block, that's not the right word for it, but there's something else that sort of bubbles up around it that can stop us if we're not careful.
I have to agree, and I like that you say this happens every 3 years, so that's actually normal. I think, right? Like, I think that we expect to start in our careers as entrepreneurs and stay the course, but I think it's normal to evolve and grow with your creativity and your confidence and everything that comes through, right?
Yeah.
It's a journey for sure, and evolution. And you mentioned something too around just like the fear of who am I, right? And do you have, I think that comes up for me as well. And just like, who am I to write this book, or who am I to interview Tina? Like, there's these things that comes up almost on a daily basis. And I roll with it. Like, I just like, it's like quieting that voice. But do you have systems in your head or in your day-to-day? I like to call them like proactive systems for myself, but that you battle those voices in your head? Or
I don't know if I have systems per se, but I would say that there's something I've learned to embrace, is especially from the imposter syndrome perspective. We can only be who we are. There was a certain point of, and this would be true even beyond, like, before I even started my business, from whatever age, that idea of like feeling like I had to be someone else. right? Like I got to be more of this or more of that, or I got to be more like this person or that person or whatever. And that happens when we're in school, it happens in the business world. It's really easy to look around and be like, oh, I wish I was like that person. There came a time, I want to say in particular, about 3 or 4 years ago now, where I wanted to be more purposeful with the way I was showing up and connecting online with people. And I tend to do a lot of connection mainly through Facebook. I'm very much a Facebook gal. Might pop up here and there in other places, but very much a Facebook gal.
Yeah.
And I just remember starting to be me. Like, it almost sounds cheesy to say that, but when I show up being myself, then that's where it all works. Like, first of all, it's a lot easier to just be ourselves.
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
Just be ourselves. And but the other thing too, though, that's one of my favorite compliments that I'll receive from people is I'm pretty purposeful with putting content and things out there these days. And when people come back to me and say, oh my gosh, Tina, you're so real, I'm like, that's probably one of my favorite compliments. Because that's what I'm aiming to be. I'm aiming to show up as myself. So I don't know how that is a system per se. You know what I mean? Like, there's probably some solid pieces around that. But it's sort of this idea of like, that's the beauty of the world we're in today, is just like, you know what? Like, I just love being able to, each and every one of us is meant to just show up based on who we are. And when we're trying to be something else, it's a problem. It's going to get in the way. People are going to see through it. I mean, we can see through that nowadays, right?
It's too easy. Yeah.
Yes. You can see through the whatever. You can see through the, like, somebody trying to, like, hey, look at me, like leaning on a jet or whatever. It's like, no, just be real.
I love that. Well, and maybe that's not a system per se, but definitely a value, right? And sort of just like being yourself. It's about keeping it simple, right? Like, absolutely. Yeah.
It does take courage to do that. I mean, it takes courage. There's a vulnerability. There's a little bit of like, eek, what if I show up as myself? And people don't like it. There's that can kick in. But I really think the right people connect with it. Maybe that's the other side of it too, is that we're trying to be something we're not. We're trying to please everyone.
Right.
When some stay like status quo, if we're going to show up as who we are, not everybody's going to like it, but that's okay.
And that's actually, it's almost perfect when you're trying to attract your right clients. You don't want to attract the people that don't get you, right? You want to wake up and work with the people that like you and know you. And I think you're right. Like, being real helps create that connection that we crave. And I think that people buy from those they know, like, and trust. I repeat that a lot too, but and just I always think about, like, how can I help someone make a decision about working with me? And, if I'm not myself, then, they get what they get, right? Like, I will cry and laugh with my clients, and, like, I do that online too once in a while.
Even too, though, like the know, like, trust piece. I mean, that's a business, or like, what is it? A marketing, I was going to say philosophy. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's been true in marketing for a long time. Like, people buy from those they know, like, and trust. But now you bring social media into the mix. Like, I've had my business now almost 20 years. 1999 is when I started. So almost 20 years now. Like, we didn't have social media. I feel like an old lady when I say that. Back in the day, we didn't have social media, we didn't have these things. And nowadays, though, we're literally, like, not just ourselves, but our lives, to a degree, are on display, so to speak. And I think there's an element of, there's an element where we can go overboard, like a TMI aspect I'm not a fan of that. I'm not like a bear everything person. There's an element too of, like, when there's a lot of noise out there and there's a lot of people who kind of do what we do, because that's going to be true. Like, for the part, there's always other people out there who do what we do. What's going to be the connector, the thing that they connect to? Like, it might be like, oh, hey, Tina has a Bernese Mountain Dog puppy. Oh my gosh, I love them. Let's like it can be things like that. Or hey, she's a crazy cat lady. I have 4 cats along with a Bernese Mountain Dog puppy. Right? Like, it can be Whatever. My most commented on post this year was when I talked about going gray.
Oh no, that's wonderful. I love it. Isn't that funny? I think mine was very similar. When I turned 40, I started growing whiskers out of my chin. I was like, what is this? Nobody told me about this. What do we do about this?
Where did this come from? Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness. Awesome. So tell me a little bit about your day-to-day, and when you're constantly running and stepping into that leadership role in different ways inside your groups, inside the certification program and the foundation, and in your day-to-day with your clients, how do you self-preserve? Like, how do you how do I even say this? How do you take care of yourself? Yeah, because I think burnout is a huge thing for people that are up leveling. We think that, we have to work all hours, but that's really not true. Work smarter, not harder or longer. But tell me a little bit about, how you approach it, because that 20 years, like, you're still thriving and growing and up leveling. And so please share. I would love to hear.
I think it's a mix of three things that come into play. I want to say the obvious things to say, especially in the scope of a business: have team, have systems. Like, none of us are meant to do this on our own. And if you have a vision that's bigger than who you are as an individual, which many of us do, like, if your vision is bigger, if your mission is bigger, then it's going to require other people to be a part of that. That's just the flat out truth. Anything from like admin support, management level support, strategic, like all kinds of things. The bigger the vision, the bigger the mission, the more support we need from people. And the systems piece, I think you and I were kind of joking before we hopped on live here. It's like, creatively, I'm a pretty last minute kind of gal. Like, people might think I'm one of those, hey, she gets stuff done way ahead of time. I don't. I'm a bit of a last minute gal, but we've structured the business and the systems to support that. Like, yes. If I decide last minute, hey, you know what, I want to do a webinar. I want to do a webinar. Like, what's today? Wednesday. If I'm like, hey, you know what, I want to do a webinar next Wednesday. We've got systems in place. We've got processes. We've got templates. We've got things so laid out that it's almost like, let's just flip a switch, fill in a couple of gaps, and then we're good to go. It's not a creative, chaotic, whatever mess, if that makes sense. Right? Everybody running like reinventing the wheel and all kinds of stuff. So, the more creative you are, the more you need systems.
Yeah, big time.
The less you think you need them, but the more creative you are, the more you actually do need them. You don't have to be the one to create them. That's the other side, right? Because not all of us are system minded. This is where you get someone like a good certified OBM and someone in place in the business that can really own that for you. The third piece is just refuse.
I like this one.
I refuse to work 24/7. I refuse to work 24/7. I have two young girls. I'm a single mama. It's just me. Like, there's all of that to say, like, I could be working a lot more, I suppose, but I refuse to. That's not the life I want to have. Like, I get up in the morning, I'm not hitting my computer until probably close to 10 most days.
Nice.
Yeah. Got my morning routine, walking dog and taking kids to school and blah, blah, blah. We've got that all laid out. I'm done about 3:30ish when my kids come home from school. I don't work weekends. I just don't want to. Like, it sounds funny to say. It's like, and when I work with people from the perspective, we have some programs and clients I've worked with from the perspective of, how do you, get yourself out of the day-to-day and working too much? Because that can happen for many of us. Like, we grow and can wake up one day and be like, there's too much going on. The very first thing is you really have to decide. Like, you have to decide. And then it's a matter of looking at things like, okay, let's look at the structure of the business. Let's look at what I'm offering and how I'm offering it. If you're the only one doing what you do, offering what you offer, it's hard to get, it's hard to cut back time. It's looking at team, it's looking at systems, it's looking at all of that. But I just refuse to work too much.
I love that. And I think that it almost bears repeating, because I think that so many people think you do have to work 24/7 to build a successful business. And that is simply not the case, right?
Well, and there's times where you gotta hustle and times where you gotta crunch, and it's there's times we gotta be all in to it. But that's being purposeful with it. Like, oh hey, this is if somebody's in a launch, like, yeah, all right, launch. That might be some crunch time. But it's just when it becomes day after day after week and there's no light at the end of the tunnel. I had that conversation with someone earlier today in regards to she's joining one of our programs. It's like, it's just like, yeah, this is all good. And I'm working way too much. And it's like, no, this isn't what I signed up for. Like, I didn't start my business to be working all the time.
Right. To leave your 40-hour corporate job to work your 80 hours. It's just like, no, thank you. No. And it does take a village. And we were talking earlier this week, and even with my team as well, this came up is like, the ability to ask for help. If there's a difference between the pity ask and the power ask, and when you're looking to grow your business and asking for help, I mean, it's a very strategic decision, but also it's a power ask. It's not like, it comes from a good place, I think. Would you agree? Like it takes a village and you need to ask for help.
Yeah. And asking can be really hard for some of us.
Right? What is that?
Sort of that idea. I because I work mostly with women and I am a woman, I can speak more. I believe this can be true for men as well, but I know for women in particular, it can be really hard to ask for help for all kinds of reasons. But one of the things I'll do with clients, and this could be a fun one for anybody watching this too, is ask for something beyond your comfort zone. Go out and make an uncomfortable ask. Like, I'm the type of person, I can walk into a store and be looking for a specific thing. The person working at the store will come up and say, hey, can I help you with anything? I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm going to go find it on my own. Like, what? Yes, please, can you help me find X? Like, when we are very, we're self-sufficient, we're smart cookies, we're roll up our sleeves, we're let's make it happen, woohoo type people, like high achieving, whatever you want to call that. The default mode really is not just I'm going to do it myself, but I'm going to figure it out myself.
Yes.
Right. So even that's really hard too. Like, so there's all areas. It's sort of like wherever we're feeling stuck, wherever we're feeling frustrated, what can I ask for in this moment?
I love that, because I think what you just said too is that we don't usually ask to have someone else figure it out. Like we are that superwoman mentality. I think that it's like, I can do it all and I can figure it all out. And I think that a lot of us get stuck in that trap, and just, it's crazy, and it will cause burnout, right? Ultimately, I think.
Yeah. Well, and even too, like, you can have great doers on your team. I had this conversation with another client. It was a couple of months ago now. She's like, I've got these great people on my team, but they keep coming to me for every decision. Like, great. You've got doers. Okay, that's great. Do you have decision makers? And that's a leadership thing. It's up to us to create decision makers too. So it's not, you can hire, there's an aspect of hiring that comes in there, but it's actually a lot more about leadership too. To be able to create an environment and lead in a way that encourages people to be decision makers. And then it's like, when with this particular client, like, a few shifts and it was like, ooh, yay, like things really shifted. She's like, it's like, oh, they're not bugging me all the time anymore. It's like, well, you empowered them to make decisions, like you made a shift that way. It makes a big difference.
Oh, I love that way of thinking. Like that's so powerful in itself. And I think that a lot of people watching can definitely relate. And Sarah was chatting here. Sarah's another member of my team. She says too, like, it's important to set boundaries, right? So you were talking a little bit about making those asks, but also refusing and those boundaries just around your time and what you do and what other people do too, right?
Oh, yeah.
And growing your team.
And we're the only one that can set the boundaries.
Right.
Actually, we need to set them and enforce them. Like, there's two sides to that coin. Boundaries they can be like, I was going to say a lifesaver, like a sanity saver. That's for sure.
Yes. Yes, I believe it. So tell me a little bit about like the last 20 years. What are some things that have surprised you along the way, like during the creation of new things and in your business? What lessons and surprises maybe lessons you've learned that have surprised you along the way, takeaways for people watching that might be considering launching their own certification program or launching a course or a membership site, or what kind of insights do you have to share with them about that process?
I think that, so for me, there's a handful of things, especially when I look back over the past 20 years. I don't think we can even conceive of where we can ultimately land with our businesses. I didn't even want to start a business 20 years ago. Like, right? I never had any aspirations. I fall into that kind of accidental entrepreneur category, but it was really a mix of like, what's showing up out there? What are people asking for? Where can I fit into this? Like, I talk about my journey as almost being like following a trail of breadcrumbs in a way, where it's like, oh, this, oh, that, oh, this, so it's really like paying attention to what's around us, and then being willing to respond if it is a fit for who we are and who we're meant to be. I think another thing too, it ties into when we were talking about the imposter syndrome piece a bit. Yeah. Because I really used to look at certain people and think, oh my gosh, they have something I don't have. Like, I used to put people up on pedestals, and I don't anymore, because I've met, and know some of these people now, like in my own business journey, I've gotten to meet and know and even become friends with certain people that I used to be like, oh, they have so much more than, I could never. It's like, no, that's like, everybody's human. Yeah. Everybody's in this together. There's nothing out there. There's nobody out there that has, they do their thing in their way, but we all have that thing we can be bringing to the table. And so being able to like own the fact, I'm not going to say this quote very well, but I can't even remember whose quote it is. I'm going to totally butcher this, but the idea, the only difference between ourselves and the person who has whatever it is we're wanting to work towards or what we want to have is the fact that they believe they could achieve it and they just went for it. Right? Wow, like, that's all it is. That's really all it is in that way.
Yeah. I like how Shelley says too, that's a good quotable, ask beyond your comfort zone. But I think too, like when you're talking about those breadcrumbs and following it's, it really is not necessarily about the end destination, but the journey you're on. And, and sometimes we don't see the forest for the trees, right? Like, we think we're headed in one direction, but I think if we allow that flow to happen, it can just take us to places we can't even imagine, and allow that to happen.
And I know I'm not going to assume this is true for everyone. I know it's true for me, though, is if I get too caught up in my own head of like, this is what I want and I want it to look this way, and it's all like that way, hey, it becomes really hard work. Like, I feel like I'm pushing and struggling and striving, and it becomes really hard. And B, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so, it'll kind of go so far, but not too far sort of scenario. Whereas anytime I've just been like responding, I'm a bit of a human design geek. So if anybody is human design, I'm a generator, I'm meant to respond. If I'm responding to what comes to me, then it's ease. Like, it's ease. So there is something around being able to, that requires a bit of patience though, right?
Yes.
I'm not a very patient person by nature. So there's a little bit of like learning to just pause, breathe. Not everything needs to be hustle, hustle, go, go, go every day, all the time. I think we can run past those golden nuggets if we're trying to do that too much.
Oh, in a big way. And I love that too. Like, I think there's that almost like a forgiving ourselves. Like, we can be so hard on ourselves that, and realigning or even renegotiating your goals, I think is a good lesson to learn. And I see Clyde is popping in here. I love that. Be stubborn about your goals and flexible about your methods. Thanks, Clyde. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's an interesting thing. Yeah, be stubborn about your goals and flexible about your methods. That's very interesting. Very cool. Very cool. So we only have a couple more minutes here, but I wanted to make sure that people knew where to find you. We're going to be posting some links in the comments, but where's the best place? Where do you hang out? You mentioned Facebook. You have your website at ginaforsyth.com. And tell me a little bit more about where people can find you and your next book.
Yeah, teamforsyth.com is my main website. You can join my list there if that's something you're interested in. Online, you can find me, in particular on Facebook, Tina Forsyth or Tina Martin Forsyth, depending on how you're looking me up there. We have a Fearless Women Leaders group that on Facebook as well. I know you and I are connected in there as well, Leigh. With that we've been having some, there's some cool, good stuff that we bubble and brew and talk about in that group there too. Or even pop an email like tinaforsyth.com. I mean, if anybody wants to reach out to me directly, I do read my own email.
Hey. I'm still doing it myself, but I hear you. Yeah, like that's something I just love that there's so many ways to connect in this world. And, when you are yourself, it makes it easier for people to reach out. And, and that's partly part of this whole series, the Ready to Amplify. The book came out recently, Ready to Amplify, just a week ago. And I have a page too I'd love to share with people to just continue that conversation about amplifying, stepping into bigger spotlight, and heading over to leifowler.com/book to gain access to more training and resources, the book, lots of cool stuff. But really, I just love that it does take a village. And this is part of the whole thing of this interview series is that, I often feel like a mad scientist, Tina. Like I feel like I'm bubbling up all these things and ideas and a little bit crazy. But what I want to create online and I want to connect with others that I feel like are just doing what, their dreams are desiring them to do, but like breaking past all those boundaries and stepping up their game. And I often do feel a little isolated in my home office and in my big dreams and my vision. But I find that when you have conversations like this one, like the things that you've done and how you've seen your journey, I just thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And I'm just so honored to have you here. And I think people watching are going to learn a lot. Shelly just put in my book there. I wonder if I can show two things at one time. There's Tina's digits. But yeah, just it is a journey. And I hope that we continue the connections online and hang out. And thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it. Cool. All right. I'm going to press the end button a couple of times. So let's see how this goes. Signing out, everybody. We'll see you next time.